Good morning, everybody. Today we are going to be continuing on in our math by continuing to compare fractions as either greater than, less than, or equal to. So yesterday we discussed comparing fractions with like denominators, okay? When the bottom number is the same, it's pretty easy to compare. When the denominators are the same, like here we have fourths and fourths, you're very straight in a very straightforward manner comparing the numerators. 1 is less than 3, so 1/4 is less than 3/4. Here were some of the examples that we did yesterday. Okay, we see fifths, we see that the denominators are equal or the same, so when they are like denominators, we look at the numerator. 2 is less than 4, so 2/5 is less than 4/5. And the same here in this example where we saw eighths. 2/8 is less than 5/8. 2 is less than 8. So in a very straightforward manner, we look at the first thing you should always do is look to see if the denominators are the same. If the denominators are the same, you can very, very simply compare the numerators. Okay, here were just a couple other examples that we did. We saw 1/3 and we saw 2/3. So we compared those. Okay, we saw 1/3 is less than 2/3. 1 is less than 2, so 1/3 is less than 2/3. Fifths, both fifths. We look at that denominator first. Okay, 2 is less than 4, so 2/5 is less than 4/5. 3/8 is less than 6/8, and in this case, 4/6 is greater than 1/6. Okay, now today we are going to be comparing fractions with like numerators when the denominator is different, but the numerator is the same. So if you look back to these unit fractions, the numerator is the same in all of these unit fractions. The numerator is 1 in every one. So now it's definitely more confusing than comparing like denominators, but there is a rule to follow. When the numerators are the same, it's the second easiest way to compare fractions. All right, so we have the numerators the same in all these unit fractions, 1. So just as a review, remember, as your unit fraction, as the denominator increases 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but the numerator stays the same, 1. So as the denominator grows in parts, the fraction gets smaller because you're dividing. Look at 6. You're dividing it into 6 equal parts. So each part's going to be smaller than if you divided it into 2 equal parts. Think about a pizza. If you shared a pizza with 6 total people, you and 5 others, okay, you'd get 1 out of the 6. But if you shared it with just 2 people, just you and one other person, you'd each get half of the pizza, or 3/6. So anyway, as the denominator grows, the fraction gets smaller. That's important for today's lesson. So let's go here so that we can read about comparing fractions with like numerators. Okay, when comparing fractions with like numerators, it's the opposite of comparing fractions with like denominators. When the numerators are the same, you must then look at the denominator. Okay, so first you should look at the denominator. So let's look at this example here. Okay, denominator, 4 and 7. Okay, they're not the same, so we can't, in a very straightforward manner, just compare the numerators. So the second thing we should do is look to the numerators and see if they are the same. And if you look here, the numerators are the same. They are 3 and 3. So now here's the rule. In this case, the smaller denominator is actually the larger fraction. Look here, 3/4, okay, look at the red, takes up more space than 3/7. Okay, so when you're comparing numerators, 3 and 3, when they're the same, you can go to the denominator. It's backwards thinking. The denominator that is smaller is actually larger. So in this case, 3/4 is greater than 3/7. Please make sure you're watching this video carefully today because it's confusing. Okay, so here we will practice a few with like numerators. Okay, again, for today we'll just look. We know that they're going to be like numerators for today, but when it gets all mixed up, it gets tricky. So anyway, okay, we look here. We see numerators 2 and 2. The numerators are the same, so it is the fraction with the smaller denominator that is actually larger. So here, the picture model, the example given, the illustration, helps us to see that 2/3 is greater than 2/6. In fact, 2/6 is equal to 1/3. Okay, but anyway, 2/3 is greater than 2/6. Let's look at the next example. We see 4/5 and we see 4/9. Numerators are the same, 4 and 4. Therefore, it is the smaller denominator that is the larger fraction. So 4/5 is greater than 4/9. Here are some examples, okay? The fractions are written in for us. So we see 3/4 and 3/6. Okay, 3 and 3 in the numerator. So we look to the denominator. 4 is smaller than 6, so it's actually larger. 3/4 is greater than 3/6. Here, we're looking at 2/5 and 2/3. We have 2 and 2 in the numerator. The numerators are alike. They are the same, 2 and 2. Then we look to the denominator, 5 and 3. The fraction with the smaller denominator is actually bigger. So 2/5 is less than 2/3. Looking here, we have 5/8 and we have 5/6. Again, 5 and 5, like numerators, therefore the fraction with the smaller denominator, 6 is smaller, is actually bigger. 5/8 again is less than 5/6. And again here we have 4/5 and we have 4/6. You can see in this example they're both close in size. Okay, but 4 and 4 in the numerator. All right, that means we have to look to the denominator and see that 5 is a smaller number than 6. So 4/5 is less than 4/6. Okay, again, the big takeaway from today is that when you are comparing fractions with the same numerator, it is the fraction with the smaller denominator that is actually larger. It's the larger fraction. Look how I typed it here in big bold letters, okay? You have to follow that rule for today. It's sort of a backwards thinking type of lesson, okay? So you have to be on your toes and focus to make sure that you can follow that rule. Okay, that does it for today. I hope that you do well, and we will review this again tomorrow. All right, have a great day.